a staff of Department of Banking and Finance, School of Management Studies, New Bamali Polytechnic. My presentation for today is understanding peer review, responding to reviewers' comments. When we are talking about peer review is a very critical aspect as far as publishing of article is concerned, not just article, manuscript itself. By the way, let me share my slides so that members will be able to follow my presentation. So just as I said, peer review is a very important, is a very critical aspect of manuscript publication. Without peer review, manuscript cannot be published. Why? Because this is trying to look at the originality of the manuscript itself, the validity of the manuscript, as well as the relevance of the manuscript, as well as, and also its contribution to the study. And also the contribution of the manuscript to the study. So when we're now looking at manuscript peer review, here peer review always starts with editorial screening of the manuscripts. The editorial screening of the manuscript are those that try as much as possible to screen the manuscript to ensure that the manuscript is in line with all the guidelines that have been set aside by that for the publication of the article. Here, the experts in that area will have to look at it. By the time they now go through it and they are justified that all the regulations and the guidelines are strictly adhered to, the next is now send this manuscript to an expert. An expert in that area of study will now review the manuscript. Upon reviewing the manuscript, what the expert tries to look at is trying to use some scientific quality in order to see the contents of the manuscript, as well as the validity of the manuscript, the methodology, and its contribution to knowledge. When that manuscript is able to pass through these stages, then the issue of peer review will now comes in. So the peer reviewer here try as much as possible to ensure that the articles that have been sourced as far as the manuscript is concerned are all in place. Here, the reviewer try as much as possible to see, has the author been able to abide by the regulations of the journal publication or the article publication or the manuscript? If they are in line, therefore, you now try to see what are the relevant things contained in that article or contained in the manuscript. If the manuscript of an individual do not portray what actually is supposed to be, such manuscripts have the tendency of being rejected. And that's why we now said it's very, very important that individuals should always try as much as possible to respond to the reviewer's comments. For a manuscript to be accepted for publication, the author is expected to respond to some of the observations that have been raised by the reviewer. Your ability to respond to those, the ability of the author to respond to the observations raised by the reviewer will lead to either accepting or rejecting the manuscript. Oftentimes, you see individuals will not want to do the needful. By so doing, they want to cut corners in trying to see that it's not a must for me to respond to some of these observations that are raised. Actually, observations are raised in order to add value to the write-up. It's not either to criticize or to condemn what an individual have written. So before you write, definitely 1,001 people must have written on that area of study or area of discipline. So our winner said it's very, very important that if you actually want your article or your manuscript to succeed or to get to the point of publication, all the observations that are raised by the reviewer are supposed to be put in place. And if you are going to respond, there are basic tools an individual is expected to use. So just as I said, when you are looking at peer review process, it begins with editorial screening. So having screened the manuscript, if the manuscript have conformed would they lay down rules and regulations of the publication. It will now be sent to an expert who's now going to be the reviewer. So the reviewer will now review what the author have written. But what are we saying about the issue of peer review? Here, peer review here stands the chance of the manuscript to either to be accepted or to be revisited or to be rejected if the author have complied with all the requirements. But if he or she did not comply with those requirements, it stands the chance of rejection. Or oftentimes we be advised to revisit or revise what the author have written. So when we now move to types of peer review. In peer review, I said we have basically 4 types of peer review. In this peer review session, we have the single blind review, the double blind review, the open peer review, and post-publication peer review. In the single blind review, this is a situation where the author is known to the reviewer, but the author doesn't know who the reviewer is. And that's why we call it single blind review. In most cases, journals that are sent for publication and what have you are always undergo what we call the single blind review. Now, the double blind review is a situation where both the author and the reviewer are not known to each other. They don't know themselves. Their identity is concealed. So, and as such, the reviewer tried to carry out his review in order to avoid being biased. And that's why it is being tagged as is where both the author and the reviewer are known to each other. So these are these cases where we have issues like when you're having your dissertation, maybe during your proposal or internal examination or the external examination. And finally, we have what we call the post-publication review. The post-publication review is that situation where part of the article or part of the manuscript are published, and despite the fact that it's still undergoing review here is still undergoing assessment by a reviewer. And that this one are most applicable to the cases of your dissertation, either the MSc dissertation or the PhD dissertation, where according to the NUC regulation, are expected to publish some part of the article before it can now cross over, before you can now proceed with the external defense presentation. And the next item we're having is the importance of responding to reviewers' comment. I think this is our cross of the discussion. It's very, very important that authors should be able to know why do you have to respond to the comment of a reviewer. A reviewer have taken his time in order to go through the manuscript and then come up with various observations. And these observations, we believe, are what are going to add value to that manuscript. And therefore, one of the importance of responding to reviewer comment is to enhance originality and the validity of the paper. The reviewer is trying to see what is the validity of that paper and what is the originality. So this is very, very important. It's very cross when it comes to paper publication or article writing. There is also a need for one to exhibit academic excellence, maturity, and professionalism, and improve manuscript quality. Just as I said, the essence of the reviewer is to review the article so as to add value to the manuscript, but not to criticize or to condemn the manuscript, and also to increase the chance of acceptance. Yes, if an author did not respond to all the comments that have been raised by the reviewer, such kind of article will always stand the chance of being rejection. And that's why it's always important that at any point in time, when you are trying to respond to the reviewer's comments, you try to jot down all the necessary salient points that you have taken care of. Those ones you have answered and those ones you have not answered. Anyone that you have not been able to answer, you look for a way of how to put it forward. That I think this one should be in this way, despite the fact also corrections have been done and is noted going by the observations that are actually raised earlier on. And it also shows respect for reviewers' efforts. That is, you are trying to appreciate the effort of the reviewer because he has taken his time or she has taken her time in trying to review the article. So all the essence of this is to add credibility and also to ensure that the reviewer's effort is being commended. Then effective response strategies. These are various strategies that can be adopted in order to ensure effective response to a reviewer's comment. The tool that an author is supposed to use should be a soft and courteous tone. And not just soft and courteous, there must also be some kind of element of respect and appreciative tones that even when the reviewer comments may be seen harsh or misguided, it is very, very essential that you acknowledge the feedback professionally. And therefore, that is why we said the tone that you are going to use should be very soft, it should be courteous, and then also you should give a kind of respectful tone and also to appreciate what the author have done. Then we also look at the structure and the organization. Here, the author should number all comments. That is, any comments that the reviewer have identified. It's always good that you number them. Just as I said, you itemize them or you give them numbers. Comment number one, observation number one, you look at, have you been able to address such comment or not? If those comments or issues are not addressed, it's always good you go back to them. And also, it's also very important that an author should be able to look at or should be able to address comments that are major or minor comments or minor corrections. Because if comments that are very, very major and an author fails not to respond to them, that can lead to the rejection of the manuscript because the reviewer is expecting that the author should be able to do all that is expected of him as far as the acceptance of that paper is concerned or the acceptance of the manuscript is concerned for further publication. So these are some of the common reviewers' concerns and how to address them. One, if the manuscript lacks clarity or the methodology is inadequate or missing references or statistical error or language issues. These are very, very common mostly in articles or in manuscripts that are submitted for further publication or for further scrutiny by the reviewer. For example, on this lack of clarity, a sentence may be made that may be that is not all that too clear to the author. I mean to the reviewer, but the author is believed to have the chance of trying to clarify such kind of cases or instances to the reviewer by trying to respond. Inadequate methodology. Maybe the methodology used or the research design the author used is not the appropriate one, and the reviewer is now commending. So you revisit the methodology you have used or the population you have arrived at, or you are having a sample size of so number without indicating what is the total population before you arrive at the target population. These are some of the common reviewers' concerns that need to be addressed. When all these concerns of the reviewer are actually addressed, this will go a long way in trying to improve the quality of the paper and at the same time is adding value to the manuscript the author is trying to present. Indicators of successful revision and responses. By the time an author responds to the reviewer's comments, there are some certain indicators is expected to be looked into. And one of them is specific
Okay, sorry for the silence. I so much believe that there is a network issue from the presenter's side, but kindly exercise patience. He will rejoin soon. Thank you very much.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can be heard, sir.
I'm having serious network challenge here. It's on and off.
We
lost
you for some time now, sir.
Yes. So just as I was saying, I said indicators of successful revision and responses. So these are some of the indicators an author is supposed to always have at the back of his mind whenever you are responding to a reviewer's comments. It's expected that you should be specific and thorough point-by-point reply. What I mean by thorough and point-by-point reply is that the author should be able to go through those specific observations that are raised by the reviewer and also point by point, each point that have been raised. He ensures that he make a response to that point. But I said it's always good that when observations are raised and for you now to be able to ensure response are being made, you go paragraph by paragraph, line by line, page by page. And any page or any line or any paragraph you have been able to respond to, you go down and indicate that, okay, page this I have been able to taking care of so response in this page. Then the next one is clear demonstration of changes in the revised manuscript. Yes, it is always expected that when an author have been able to complete making all those observations that are raised by the reviewer, you are expected to submit both the initial manuscript where the observations are raised and the ones that the corrections have not been effected. The essence of this is to ensure, is just to make a comparison to ensure that those observations raised by the reviewer are actually being looked into or have been effected. And that is this issue of clear demonstration of changes in the revised manuscript. There is also what we call the cross-referencing comment with line or page number, just as I've said earlier on. There is need for you to cross-reference and also make comments based on those comments that are raised and also the page numbers. Any page that you know you have been able to address the observation raised, you note it down that pages have been taken care of, and therefore I need to go on with the next page. The inclusion of a summary response letter. This one is optional. Some journal articles will always require a summary of response letter that you have to address back to the editor-in-chief to ensure that all observation raised have been corrected and effected, and this is a corrected manuscript that you have forwarded back to them for their own consideration. These are some of the challenges and pitfalls that are associated that most of the authors always get themselves involved in. That is misinterpreting the reviewer's intent. Yes, this one is very obvious. Oftentimes, authors believe that the reviewer is trying to misinterpret his intent. Yes, remember, you have different level of understanding. It's possible that what the author is trying to say is different from the way the reviewer perceives what the author is saying. And so there is always need for you as the author to take the time and the pain to try as much as possible to make your writing to be very articulate enough and also very glaring. That is glaring in the sense that it's very clear. When it is clear, that will also make both the author and the reviewer to be on the same wavelength. And secondly, now I say ignoring significant criticism. There are certain criticisms that may not necessarily be important. Remember, when you submit an article or a manuscript for review, the essence of the review is to add value to the work or to add value to the manuscript. This review is just to pinpoint some gray areas that need to be improved upon. That is what the review is all about. So if there are some level of criticism that you feel that what the reviewer is trying to point out is not that too clear, you can just make it in form of a sentence that yes, observation on this have been taken care of, but going by the studies I have reviewed, this is what they say, and I think it should be in this form. So these are some of the challenges. So I now said it's not something that the author will always take it that serious if points that are not going to add value to the work. Remember, it's not everything or it's not every observation that the author, that the reviewer make comment on that you are going to take holistically. You only look at comments that are going to add value to the work or they are going to add value to the manuscript. Those are the ones we're expected to pay much absolute attention to. Again, we have what we call poor communication revision. When there is poor communication, it always leads to what we now call there is going to be a gap, and there is going to be a communication gap. And at that point in time, it's possible what you are trying to say may not be articulate enough to the reviewer. So therefore, the author is expected to take care of those ones. Most especially, communication is very important. Remember, is your content that is now communicating between the author and the reviewer, because the reviewer is not seeing the author, but what the author have written is what is communicating in your absentia to the reviewer. So therefore, communication is very, very important. And also, one should not be too over defensive or under response. Don't be over defensive in what the author have said, or don't be too under response. That is, under response meaning you are not responding to most of the observations that to meet the standard of the journal requirement. So these are some of the best practices and recommendations. Practices and recommendations. Some of the best practices employed in responding to reviewers' comment includes the following. One, there is need for one to always acknowledge all the feedback, even if you disagree with some of them. Two, you have to provide evidence or justification for any disagreement. If, for example, here I said the research design of my study is mixed method research design, and I am not trying to disagree with maybe one of the observations raised by the reviewer. I will now say I'm trying to use mixed research design because my study encompasses the use of both the qualitative study and the quantitative study. Or I'm using both the primary source of data collection and the secondary source of data collection. You see, you should be able to provide and justify your claim, because research is all about justification, not just blanket statement. When you make a statement, there is need for you to justify and to claim that statement you have made. So that's why we're trying to say provide evidence or justification for any disagreement. And then three, keep professional tone, not personal. There should not be personalization when you are indulging in research. You do not say I, or do not say we. You say the researcher or the researcher. So instead of you personalizing, personalization is not permissible as far as research writing is concerned, or among the ethics of research. Now, there is also a need for you to revisit the manuscript thoroughly. Despite the fact you have effected all the necessary corrections, there is a need for you to review over and over, because there is every tendency of you coming across one or two things that you must have missed along the line during the process of taking care of those corrections. And finally, there is need for you also to consult co-authors or mentors when you are in doubt. When you are in doubt of anything or any statement or anything you have done as far as your manuscript is concerned, it's always good you give it to a mentor who will be able to review and edit it for you before you make the final submission. So best practices, these are the checklists that are contained as far as the best practices is concerned for manuscript publication. One is to organize response document. Two, address every comment. Three, clear manuscript revision. Then track changes, files included. That is, any change that you have made, the files you have documented this item should always be tracked and should be included. And then one should be polite, and you should use a scholarly tone. Do not use a tone that will be too harsh to the reviewer. So, and finally, we said in conclusion, responding to reviewers' comment is a critical phase in publishing process that requires strategic thinking, humility, clarity. So authors who embraces this phase has an opportunity for growth and manuscript enhancement are more likely to succeed in competitive world of academic publishing. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful presentation. We really appreciate. At this point, we will go with the question and answer. So in case participants have questions, you can please raise up your hand to ask the presenter your questions. So please, questions.
Okay, moderator. Hello.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yes, I think there are two presentations. I would have loved, let me make the two presentations, then questions cannot come towards the
All
end.
right.
What do you suggest?
All right. Yeah, all right, it's okay. Thank you, sir. You can go ahead.
I hope you understand what I'm saying, so that let there be flow. So the
Yeah.
question can now come after the second presentation. Because I think the
Okay.
first presentation, I'm having some technical issues of
It's all right.
network, but I believe this is addressed now. So let me take the second presentation. The
Yeah,
second
please go.
presentation is referencing and citation styles. So I just don't have to introduce myself again. So based on the presentation outline, we have the introduction, understanding referencing and citation, major referencing and citation styles, in-text citation in upper style, differences between upper 6th and 7th edition, example from various sources, types, then importance of proper referencing, conclusion and recommendation. So when we say referencing and citation are very, very critical when it comes to academic writing. This is based on the fact that wherever an author have been able to source his information, it is expected that the author should acknowledge the source of those information he has used in his write-up. And the essence of acknowledging and, the essence of acknowledging and referencing is to uphold the integrity of the researcher and also the research work itself. The importance of referencing and citation. There are various importance of referencing and citation, but I will just look at some of the vital ones, which are one, to acknowledge the original author, and which also lead to respecting intellectual property. It's not always possible you write an article or you write a manuscript and you not acknowledge the author. May not doing that result to what we now know as plagiarism. So therefore, acknowledging the source of the information or acknowledging the source of the data or the information you have used is very, very important. And that is the first importance of referencing and the in-text citation. It also enables the reader to trace and also verify the sources of the information that are contained in the manuscript. Because if they no referencing and no citation, you will not be able to trace and also verify the sources of the information, because some of the references or the information may be ghost or may not actually be existing. But by the time you acknowledge and then you include them in the references, it gives an individual the respite and the confidence that he can always be able to trace where these informations or the sources are coming from. It also enhances academic integrity and professionalism, which we all know this one. And finally, it builds credibility through engagement with existing literature, because you are trying to make references. Therefore, these references will be based on literatures that are already existing, because what you are writing are not all your own understanding or your own opinion. These are opinions of other people, and therefore there is need for you to reference them. And that's why I would say this is one of the importance of referencing. When we are looking at types of referencing and citations, we have different types of referencing and citation. But we are going to start with the American Physiological Association, which is the APA. In the upper method of referencing and citation, this is mostly used in social science and behavioral sciences. Those of us in the field of science, in the field of social science and behavioral sciences, we mostly use the American Physiological Association, which is the upper method of association. So I now say, which is the American Psychological Association, which is the upper. So this one is used mostly by the social and the behavioral sciences. In upper referencing and citation, we have different methods of citations, both in-text citation and the referencing. It's either you are using book in order to source your referencing, or you are using you are using journal articles or online source or workshop conference. But at this point, let me make emphasis on, or let me focus my emphasis on the referencing. From the referencing, I'll narrow down back to citation, that is in-text citation. When we are using APA, the American Psychological Association method of referencing is always in two forms. That is both the 6th edition and the 7th edition. But the most common edition now invoked or that is in use now is the 7th edition. So between the 6th and 7th edition, there are some little differences. But since what is invoked is the 7th edition, if you are using a book for you to cite your reference, what APA says is that, or the format for the 7th edition is the surname of the author, which is comma. Then you now have the initial, full stop. For example, as what we are having the format author, comma, then initials, full stop, year of publication, title of the book in italics, then the place of publication. If one is looking at this from the 7th edition, there is different from the 6th edition. But if you are looking at the 6th edition, what APA says is if you are referencing in a book, the surname of the author, comma, initial of the author, full stop, year of publication of the book in parentheses, full stop, title of the book in italics, place or country of publication, column, before the name of the publisher. But since I said we're using the 7th edition, what we're having displayed here on the slide is the 7th edition. And that's why I now said, example, we have Aremu, which is a surname, comma, initial, M, full stop, M, full stop again. Then the year of publication in parentheses, 2020. The title of the book is Entrepreneurship and Small Business Management. You can see the title of the book here is in italics, then full stop. Then the name of the publisher, which is now Spectrum Books, which are the publishers. This is the format for the 7th edition. And if you narrow down to journal article, how you reference journal article is different from how you reference a book. In the case of journal article, still using the APA method style, 7th edition, you have the surname of the author, comma, the initial of the author, full stop, the year of publication in parentheses, then full stop, title of the article. That is, you give the title of the article, full stop, then the name of the journal is the name of the journal now that is going to appear in italics. That is what differentiates the referencing in book from referencing in journal. For the case of a book, is the title of the book that is in italics. The title of the journal is not in italics, but the name of the journal. For example, I said Moses, comma, M, full stop, A, full stop, 2021, in parentheses, full stop. Title of the journal, E-Banking in Nigeria. That's the title of the article. Then the name of the journal is Journal of Business Management. Is that name of the journal that is going to be in italics, comma, followed by the volume of the journal and the issue number of that journal in parentheses, then comma, before you now have the page or the pages. And if it's having a DOI, that is digital object identifier, you are expected to give the URL, the URL of that journal article, and which will now have HTTPS DOI, that is digital object identifier, full stop, the title of the org, and then the other names will appear on this. Just as illustrated here, I said Yusuf, comma, M, full stop, O, full stop, year 2021, full stop, title of the article, mobile banking in Nigeria, full stop, column, that is growth and challenges, full stop. African Journal of Finance, you can see African Journal of Finance now is in italics. Then the volume number, volume 15, then issue number 2, that's issue number of the journal. in parentheses, that is in bracket, then comma, then the page number, page 133 to 145. But it's not all journals oftentimes that do have the DOI, digital object identifier. If it is not having the DOI, you can leave it. Then the next one is online source. The format for online source, you have the name of the author, comma, the initial, then year and month, as well as date. Then in parentheses, followed by the title, and then the web name of the URL. Example is Okafor, comma, N, that's initial. 2023, that is the year. Then, comma, the year, the month and date, January, that is 5th January, January 5th. In parentheses, bracket close. Then the title is Understanding Nigeria's Tax Reform. The website name is Punch Newspaper. Then the URL name, number, that is HTTPS, whatever, and continues like that. Then if it is a workshop article that you have used, what you have used obtained from the workshop or a conference paper, you are citing it from a conference paper or from a workshop. The format is the surname of the author as it appears earlier, comma, the initial, the year of publication, title of the paper, full stop there, paper presented at what national conference was the paper presented? You have to be specific, you have to mention it. For example, I then said, we have in our example based on the format we are having here, we can see that where I said the format here is Bello, comma, initial T, full stop, year 2022, title of the paper, Bridging the Financial Literacy Gap in Rural Nigeria. That's the title, full stop. Then paper presented at CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria Financial Inclusion Workshop, comma, then Abuja. That is the location. This is how you are going to reference a paper whenever you are using the upper referencing style. And what we have done here, is the 7th edition. The second type of referencing and in-text citation we're having here is a MLA, which is the Modern Language Association. The Modern Language Association is mostly used in humanities, particularly in literature, philosophy, and arts. This is where referencing is being conducted or carried out, those in the areas of humanities, philosophy, art, and literature. So here we also look at referencing in terms of book, just as we have in the earlier one, we have in terms of the book. If it is book, we have the author last name, comma, then followed by his first name, full stop, the title of the book, full stop, publisher, comma, year of publication. For example, Smith, comma, that is the author's last name, Smith, comma, then first name now, John, instead of having initial as we used to have in upper. Here there is no initial. You mention the last name. You start with the author's last name, comma, then followed by the author's first name, comma, full stop at that point. Then the title of the book, which is Understanding Literature. Then publisher is Penguin Book. The year of publication is 2018. You can see the differences between the MLA and the upper referencing style. In the MLA, it's quite different from upper in the sense that here you start with the author's last name and you don't have to give the initial of the author, but rather you give the author's last name followed by comma, the first name of the author followed by full stop, then the title of the book, then full stop also, then name of the publisher, comma, and the year of publication. You can now see the year of publication when you are using MLA is the year that comes last, unlike what we experience in the case of upper. In citations again, in the in-text citation, I will come back to the in-text citation of referencing. I mean, after referencing, but here we are saying in-text citation, we have parenthetical citation. Citation, in-text citation can be done in two forms, either parenthetical citation. In the case of parenthetical citations, that is in brackets, whereas narrative citation is one that always, it comes first, and the year will now come in brackets. For example, here I said parenthetical, Smith, 23. This is going by LME, not going by APA. While the narrative is, according to Smith, you can see, literature reflects complexities of human experience. Kanansi, 23. That is Miss Smith, 2023. That's just what it signifies here. The next one, we are now having the Chicago or the Turabian type of citation and also referencing. The Chicago style of referencing is versatile. It's used in the field of history and some social sciences. Some social sciences also make use of this Chicago or Turabian type of referencing. In most cases, most of the articles or most of the publishers always spelled out the type of referencing and in-text citation they want their authors to follow. So based on the choice of the kind of referencing and in-text citation, the editors of the articles are concerned, they will specify on which one you are going to. So based on that, the author will now be able to know which one he or she is expected to go ahead with. But whichever one you are expected with, you are expected to go ahead with some kind of mastery of what you are trying to include as far as the referencing is concerned, in order to ensure that you comply with the laid down regulations of the article publication. So in the case of Chicago or Turabian, I say it is being used mostly in the field of history and sometimes in social sciences. It offers two systems. One, that is the note system and bibliography system, which is often used in humanities, and the auto-date system used in sciences. So note and bibliography format. We have book. In the book format, we have the author first name and then the last name, title of the book, place of publication in parentheses, then column, then publisher, comma, and then year of publication. For example, John Smith, comma, title of the book, A History of Literature, place of publication, New York, then column. New York indicates the place of publication. That's why we're having column. Then after column, you now have Random House. That is the name of the publisher and the year of publication, 2019. The in-text citation of using Chicago or Turabian style also differs. In the in-text citation, we have what we call the footnote or the endnote. You just say John Smith, comma, A History of Literature, then New York, then Random House, and then the year of publication, all in parentheses, comma, then you now indicate the page, which is page 45, which is now coming after the parentheses. While in the case of auto date type, we have the reference list, author last name, comma, first name of the author, year of publication, full stop, title of the book, full stop, place of publication, column, then the name of the publisher. Example, Smith, comma, that is author last name, Smith, comma, John, first name, year of publication, 2019, full stop. A history, title of the book, title of the book, A History of Literature, full stop. In italics, then place of publication, New York, column, then name of publisher, Random House Publishers. Then the in-text citation, just as I said, we have both the parenthetical in-text citation and the narrative citation. The parenthetical citation, we say it always comes in parentheses, which is towards the end, and is always in parentheses, which is Smith 2019, 45. Smith 2019 indicates the year of publication of the book 2019, and 45 indicates the page number of that article. Then the narrative style in-text citation, Smith, is always at the beginning. Smith, then the year 2019, comma, then the page page 45, in parentheses, closes, and then argues that literature is a reflection of society. The next one we are having is a Harvard style of referencing. The Harvard referencing style is commonly used in the United Kingdom and Australia, particularly in social and natural sciences. It follows an auto-date format similar to APA. A good example now we're having is a referencing format. The referencing list format is, for book, we have the author last name, followed by, comma, then first name, which is followed by initial, full stop, the year of publication, in parentheses, title of the book, then full stop. Title of the book, full stop, in italics, place of publication, column, and then publisher. You can see this is almost synonymous to what we have in upper 7th edition. And that's why the Harvard referencing style is particularly used in social and natural sciences. Just as we said, in upper, it is used by social science and behavioral sciences. So that's why some of the authors, some of the publishers will always want, or editors will want the authors to follow the Harvard method of referencing as well as in-text citation. But I've said that for you to be on the safer side, always look at what type of referencing does the editors or the publishers of those articles ask you to use, and that is what is going to guide you. Once it is spelled out, you will now be able to know what is expected of you and how you are going to abide by those rules and regulations in terms of their referencing and also the in-text citation. So the referencing list format, as I said, in the case of a book for Harvard is almost synonymous to that of the upper referencing style of the 7th edition. The same thing goes with the in-text citation, both parenthetical and narrative. In parenthetical, you see we just have Smith, comma, 2018 in parentheses. And then in narrative, we have Smith, then open brackets, 2018, bracket close, emphasizes the importance of research method. And finally, in the types and styles of referencing and in-text citation, we have the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, IEEE. This is primarily used in technical field, particularly in engineering and computer science. It employs a number citation. This is where the citation is based on numbers. Numbers will be allocated. You will not see the names of the author or the initial of the authors in the in-text citations, but rather you just see number 1, number 10, 20, and what have you, based on how they appear in the referencing. So an example of this referencing list format is for a book. In the case of a book, hello? In the case of a book, we have the author first initial, then the last name of the author also, comma, title of the book, then the edition of the book, maybe 9th edition or 10th edition, comma, city of publisher, then comma, by stroke country of the publisher, then name of publisher and the year of the publisher or the year of publication. Example of the book here is 1 in brackets 1, we have J, that's the initial of the author, J full stop, Smith, introduction to electronic, comma, introduction to electronic. Number 2, author form
Sorry, please, once again, there is a network mixed up from the presenter's side. That is why you hear some silence. Sorry for the break in transmission, but he'll be back very, very soon. So please, let's exercise patience while he tries to return. Thank you very much for your understanding.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
sir,
you,
we
sir.
can hear you. We can hear you, sir.
Are we together, please?
Yes, we are. We can hear you. Yes, sir.
So I said, in summary, we have 5 different types of referencing style and in-text citation, namely the upper style, the MLA style, that is the Modern Language Association, the Chicago or Turabian style, and Harvard style, and finally, the IEEE, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, which I believe I have explained each and every one of them. Now, I now said in in-text citation using upper. Upper uses primarily 2 types of in-text citation, normally the parenthetical and the narrative citation. For parenthetical citation, the author and year of publications appear within parentheses. For example, I said economic growth in Nigeria has been influenced by policy changes. So now, Adebayo 2020, Adebayo, 2020, you can see it's in parentheses and it's coming at the end of the statement. And that's why we refer to it as parenthetical citation. But what I want listeners to understand here is that when you are using parenthetical citation, there are situations whereby you can have more than 2 authors at a time. So when you have more than 2 authors at a time, you are now going to use, for example, I said, economic growth in Nigeria has been influenced by policy changes. Adebayo and Saad, 2020. So that and is going to be an ampersand because it's coming at the end of the statement. So that's just what I want authors to, listeners to be to pay attention to. The illustration I gave here is just using one author. But when you have more than 1 or 2 authors, what do you do, or how do you address the situation? In the case of narrative citation always comes in the beginning of the sentence, before the sentence is made. An example is for narrative citation. Here, I said, in the case of narrative citation, here, in the case of narrative citation, author name is part of the sentence with the publication year. Author name is part of the sentence with publication year in parentheses. Example, Adebayo 2020 noted that economic growth in Nigeria is policy driven. You can see the difference between narrative and parenthetical. In narrative, the author's name is included in the sentence and is coming in the beginning of the sentence. And just as I said, if it is more than 1 author, I will say Adebayo and Moses using A and D here, and the year in parentheses. Noted that economic growth in Nigeria is policy driven. When we are using in-text citation in upper uses the in-text citation we are using here in upper may be different from the in-text citation we are using in the 6th edition. The 6th edition, I said, is different from the 7th edition. The 6th edition was in practice before the advent of the 7th edition, which now came into use as of 2021. So most publishers or most editors will always want their authors to use the 7th edition. But we should be able to know the difference between the 6th and the 7th edition. In the case of the 6th edition, when it is in terms of in-text citation, when you are citing the authors for the first time, you are expected to mention all the names. But you have to bear in mind that these authors that you are mentioning, the number of authors should be less than 6. If you have less than 6 authors and you are using the 6th edition in in-text citation, you are expected to mention all their names. But the 7th edition do not require that. In 7th edition, you can use the name of the first author, then you now use et al. At the end. That takes care of the other authors. Also, if you are using the 6th edition and you have more than 6 authors, even in the first instance, you can mention the name of the first author and then use et al. But in the case of 7th edition, no matter the number you are having, in as much it's not up to 20, you are expected to use et al. In them all. Then number of authors in references. If you are referencing using the upper 6th edition, in upper 6th edition, if you have more than 6 authors, what you are expected is to mention the name of the first 6 authors, then followed by ellipse. Ellipse is you just open quotation mark and now put ... based on the number of authors you are having, and you now mention the name of the last author, and you now put full stop there. You are not expected to use anything like ampersand. But in the case of upper 7th edition, if you have more than 6 authors, you are expected to mention the names of all the authors in your references. You cannot use ellipse until and unless you have more than 20, maybe like 21. If you have up to 21 authors, you mention the first 1 to 19, you now use ellipses in the other ones after the 19 and in the 21st one, you now mention the name of the author and you put full stop there. Now, in the case of font, upper referencing is not just about in-text citations and referencing. It also has to do with the complete write-up of the article, how the article is going to be written, the font you are going to use, the type of this thing you are expected to use. Either you are using the 7, and either you are using the area is flexible. Either you are using area, Calibri, Times New Roman, or what have you. But if you are using upper 6th edition is very strict. It just says you are expected to use Times New Romans only. Whereas in the case of 7th edition is flexible. Then the use of retrieval, if you are using information from, or you are sourcing your information from online. In the 6th edition, you are expected to use the URL to indicate where you are sourcing the information, or information retrieved or from social URL on social date at about 300 hours. It's very, very important as far as the 6th edition is concerned of upper. Whereas in the case of 7th edition, only use the retrieval date. It's only the retrieval date that is necessary. Retrieved on 7th of January, 2025. That suffices. And finally, in the case of DOI, this is where digital object identifiers, those journals that are having DOI, they are expected to indicate their DOI first, which is DOI, you indicate it in small letter. Whereas if you are using the upper 7th edition, you are not just mentioning the DOI, but you are supposed to give the URL of the object, that is https:/, you now indicate DOI and what have you, you continue. That's what that one is saying. Now, in terms of comparison, in this upper and 7th edition, we have Adebayo, surname, comma, initial, full stop, year of publication in parentheses, full stop, then title, Fundamentals of Nigerian Taxation. This is a book, you can see, it's in italics, full stop. Then the place of country of publication and state of publication, Ibadan, country, Nigeria, column. Then tax matters. This is upper using 6th edition. Tax Matters Press is the name of the publisher. If you are using the 7th edition, there is differences between the 7th and the 6th edition, as I've said. You have Adebayo, R, which is the surname, then the year of publication in parentheses, then full stop, fundamentals of Nigerian taxation in italics, full stop. You now have the name of the publisher. You don't have the name of place of publication. So the name of the publisher is Tax Matters Press. So if you compare the two, you can see the differences between the 6th and the 7th edition. In the 6th edition, you have name of the country of the publication. But in 7th edition, you don't have the country of publication, only the name of the publisher. And also comparison between the parenthetical and the narrative in-text citation, just I've explained, I've made explanations on this one with examples also that are cited. So here I also said here, APA uses two primary in-text citations, that is parenthetical and narrative. Parenthetical citation, author and year of publications appear within the parentheses. Example, economic growth in Nigeria. I think I've explained this one earlier on. Then, when you are sourcing your information may be sourced either from books or from online or from journal articles. But if it is from line or journal articles, how do you reference? These are referencing styles using the book. Just as I said, if you are using APA, here you have referencing style from a book. We have Osage, which is surname, comma, initial of the author, full stop, year of publication, in parentheses, full stop, title of the book, corporate finance and investment analysis. In italics, then the name of the publisher, Spectrum Books. Your in-text citation is going to be Osage 2019. This example of in-text citation is what we now call the parenthetical citation because it's coming in, because it's in parentheses. If the information you are using is sourced from a journal article, how do you reference? The referencing will appear in this form: Musa, comma, initial, full stop, year of publication in parentheses, full stop, then microfinance impact on small and medium enterprises, SMEs in Nigeria, full stop. Nigerian Journal of Economics. You can see Nigerian Journal of Economics is in italics. That is the title of the journal. And, comma, the volume number is volume 8, issue number 1, in parentheses, comma, then the page 45 to page 60, followed by the HTTP, that is the URL site if it's having. Then the in-text citation, we have Musa 2020. This one is still a good example of parenthetical citation. Then if you are citing from a newspaper article or print and online source, we have Okonko, comma, J, that is initial, full stop, the year 2022 in parentheses, comma, followed by the month and the date of the publication. July 10, in parentheses, full stop, Nigerian Foreign Reserves Route, full stop. The Nations, page 4. This is when you are citing from a newspaper article, how you are going to reference it. Then if it is online, we have Okonko, comma, then initial, J, full stop, year of the year, in parentheses, 2022, comma, July 10, also in parentheses, full stop, then Nigeria's Foreign Reserve Groups, full stop, the nation, followed by the URL, just as we have said. Now, the next one also is workshop stroke conference. In workshop stroke conference, this differs a little bit. We have an example is Ibrahim, comma, which is now the initial, full stop, year 2021, full stop, digital transformation in Nigerian banking. That is the title of the paper or that was presented at the conference then. Paper presented at Digital Finance Forum, comma, Lagos, Nigeria. This is how it is going to be in form of the reference. Then the in-text citation, still the same thing following the parenthetical citation. So importance of referencing, and the importance of referencing includes as follows. 1, referencing enable one to avoid plagiarism, and it also strengthens academic credibility of the author and also of the paper, and it also allows the reader to locate original source and shows the depth of research and scholarship that the author have engaged in. Because the numbers of references and in-text citation you have always depicts the number of articles you were able to review during the presentation. I mean, when you were trying to develop that article before it was finally submitted for presentation or publication. So finally, in conclusion, I say referencing and citation are more than just mere academic formalities. They are ethical obligations and they are essential skills in scholarly writing. By understanding the nuance of different types of this referencing, that is the APA, the MLA, the Chicago or Turabian, the Harvard and the IEEE, and mastering the differences in APA 6th and 7th edition, students and researchers enhances the quality of their work and ensures intellectual honesty, whether citing a journal, a book, an online article, or a workshop paper. Accuracy and consistency are very paramount. Thank you very much for listening. Hello?
Yes, sir. We are all here.
So
Thank you very much for the presentation. Yeah. So
Thank you.
we'd like to go for the question and answer. In case the participant have questions for the presenter, then you can please unmute your mic, raise up your hand first, and then unmute your mic so you can ask your question. Thank you once again, sir, for the presentation. Yeah, Abubakar, you can go ahead, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so thank you very much for the lecture. It's actually elating. I've learned things I never thought possible today. I really appreciate your efforts, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome, please.
All right. My question is on the first the first part of the training.
Yes.
I really want to know, is there a way, how do we maintain fairness, okay, and also reduce bias, maybe when choosing between an open peer review and then double blind review?
Yes. You see, when it depends on the situation. If you send an article for publication, you submit a journal article for publication. The journal article you submit for publication will always undergo blind peer review. Blind peer review in the sense that you don't know the reviewer, and the reviewer also doesn't know who the author is. And as such, there wouldn't be bias. You understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yes, I get you now.
Whereas in the case of single blind review is where the reviewer knows the author. A good example is if you are undergoing your MSc study, your work, your proposal, or your seminar will be submitted to a reviewer to review. And that reviewer that is reviewing your seminar, it's possible that he is a staff from the department. Are you getting my point?
Yes.
The staff of the department, and there is every possibility that it's either he knows you or he may not know you. But mostly in single review, the author is known because you are a student of a department and it's been given to a staff of the department to review the paper or to review the work. So if you want to maintain fairness, fairness is always maintained when you are dealing with double blind review, where neither the author nor the reviewer know each other. You are expected to do the best you can as far as making comments, corrections, and observations are concerned on that article or on that manuscript.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So any other questions from the participants? Okay, so let me look at the comment section. Okay, thank you. So it's a thank you messages from the inbox. Engineer
My hands
Joseph.
are off, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Afternoon, sir.
Hello, afternoon, please.
Thank you for the precise lessons we have received today. My question is from the referencing aspect.
Yes.
We have different references.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Engineer Joseph, you can go ahead with your questions. We can't hear you now.
Hello? It seems he's lost.
Okay, so while we're waiting for him, there is a question in the comments, and I would like to read it out. The question is from Susanna. She's asking, for the purpose of the assessments, are we supposed to learn all this format by heart?
Okay, let me respond to your question, Susanna. Thank you for the wonderful question. I believe as a student, you are expected to mastermind this one of hearts. For me to have masterminded of heart, I think it will not pose any problem for you as a student to be able to mastermind it. Because if you are able to master it, this is going to help you a lot, and it's going to address so many issues and challenges you are likely going to come across. So therefore, there is always need for you to try as much as possible to master it. Mastering it will not be a problem, but the most important thing is which of the school of thought do you actually belong to? That's what matters most. Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Are you with me, please?
Yes.
So I said this depends on your area of discipline. Like in my own case, I'm coming from social sciences. So, and that's why you see I have absolute mastery of upper, because mostly of what we use is upper. But oftentimes you may use the Chicago or the Turabian method. And in some cases, upper and Harvard are almost synonymous. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, please? So your area of specialization or your area of discipline will determine which one are you supposed to master. But it will be good you master virtually everything. So if you master all, I think this is going to be a kudos on your part, and it's going to help you a great deal in anything you are trying to do as far as in-text citation and referencing are concerned. So this is just my take to you. Hello?
All right. Thank you very much. So there is another question here from Ali Unafisatu. She's asking, how do a reviewer understand that some changes he or she is making can't be effected because the changes, it can change the whole idea of the paper?
Can you repeat the question, please?
All right. So the question is, please, how do a reviewer understand that some changes he or she is making can't be effected because it can change the whole idea of the paper?
Yes, that is true. And that's why we said for you to be able to respond to a reviewer's comment, even do not be over defensive and over defensive in the sense that if a comment that is raised by a reviewer can change the entire concept of the paper, there are better ways we can put it to the reviewer. The observation is noted, but I have gone through so and so article, and this is what it has said or what it is said. And based on that, I have tried to effect correction in line with this. You know, this is a frontier of knowledge, and knowledge is dynamic, it's not static. So the reviewer may be having a different perception from what the author actually is trying to put across. So, but if you are not able to clarify, to give a very clearing explanation of what your intent is, there will always be some little misconception along the line. So, but I also said during the presentation, you should use a tune, despite the harsh tune and statement made by the reviewer. You as the author should use a courteous and a very soft and appreciative tune to the reviewer. So if you use these ones, definitely you'll be able to convince and carry the reviewer along and also justify your claim why you are thinking it should be in this directive. Because this is your paper, it's your work, you are the one to claim it, not the reviewer. So you stand a better position to justify any claim you are trying to put across. So this is my take in this aspect.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for the well-explained and well-detailed explanation. One last question in the comment box is from Bashir Muhammad Aliyu. And the question goes like this. There are tools used for referencing. And then he mentioned a tool which he used, which is Zotero, which I believe is very much efficient. So his question is, can you give recommendation for tools which are user-friendly?
There are different tools to be used. You can use Mendeley, and just as one he has mentioned too, it depends on the individual author, what you feel is more, that you are more conversant with. But like in my own case, I use Mendeley. Mendeley is okay for me. The other person may feel this tool is not okay for me, I may opt for the other one. It's just like when you are using tools of analysis. So if you are using tools of analysis, now this one is going to enable you to generate these references. And we have Mendeley and Zotero and also EndNote that I said that I use in those humanities. These are the three tools that are being used. But it's left on the individual. Which one do you see is you are more familiar? Which one is more user-friendly to you? And which one do you think you are more familiar with that you can now use that will be able to give you what you want? As I said, I use Mendeley. He said he uses Zotero, and there is also EndNote. These are the three types of tools for generating references. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much once again, sir. We really appreciate the presentation, and we really appreciate you taking time to come today to present on this topic. So in the absence of no questions, on behalf of the Career Service and Polytechnic Advancement Center, I would like to appreciate all the participants for the amazing engagement. We know the task is tedious, the assignment, the live lectures, but you stood out and you've been submitting your assignment. So we really want to appreciate. And just a quick announcement, the 5th assignment has been published in the Google Classroom. That was yesterday, and the deadline for submission is tomorrow by 8 a.m. So we really appreciate if you can please make time to submit the assignment before the deadline. And then we are getting close to the end of the program, which is the program is rounding up by next week, Thursday. So thank you very much for making it this far, and congratulations once again. I can see that the Deputy Director Deputy Director of the Career Service and Polytechnic Advancement Center is here in person of Builder Abdul Salam Abdul Wasiu. So, sir, if you are here, please, I believe there are some things you would like to add. The floor is yours now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Malam Aruna, for this wonderful anchoring. Doctor, we are very grateful. On behalf of the Director of Career Service and Polytechnic Advancement, I would like